Hi there, class. It is July 23rd, and we're going to go straight into our discussion of Othello here. First, I'm going to turn it over to long-haired me, who will talk about the rest of Act 3. First of all, keep sending me those essay questions. I've communicated with many of you by now, but if you have not sent an essay question in, you should do so, right? And hopefully you can do so soon. So far, I would say a lot of the questions have focused on the racial questions, right, which is a good thing. But perhaps by the end of the day, or the end of this video, right, those of you who are interested in writing about gender issues will have a little bit to talk about as well, right? Because in Act 3, Scene 3, right, we had Emilia, the handkerchief thief, take Desdemona's handkerchief over to Iago. She does not know what he will do with it when he takes it, right? But, well, there's a lot to say about Emilia. She is one of the sort of controversial characters here in the play. You could look at her as being a sort of hero, or you could look at her as a villain. So let's start with the scene that goes, this is Act 3, Scene 4, right? Desdemona is looking for that handkerchief, right? And she says to Emilia straight up, "Where should I lose that handkerchief, Emilia?" And Emilia answers, "I know not, madam." Right? That's on page 121, right? So Emilia is lying there, right? She is lying to her friend Desdemona. Now, let me again emphasize that Emilia's role in the world is to be an obedient wife, right? As a wife in Shakespeare's time, your expectation is that you're going to be obedient to your husband, right? So, Emilia, by lying there, is being obedient to Iago, because Iago does not want her to tell anyone that she stole the handkerchief, right? So she is doing her duty as a wife by doing that. That being said, let's see what happens. Othello comes in, and he is angry, right? He is asking for the handkerchief, right? And trying to get Desdemona to give it to him. So before I focus in on what Othello is saying here, and there is a lot to say, let me just emphasize, during this whole argument here, where Othello is saying, "Ha, wherefore?" Right? Is it lost? Is it gone? Speak. Is it out of the way? Right? So Othello is sort of going crazy in this scene, right? Thinking that she's lost the handkerchief and that she, has, given it to Cassio, all that stuff. Emilia is there in the scene. She is watching, right? And she has the ability at any time to end the fight, right? Because she, even if she doesn't know, because of dramatic irony, what Iago is doing with the handkerchief, she can clearly see that there is, a problem here that she has caused by stealing it, right? So, for Desdemona, or for Emilia, right, she doesn't know what is going on when she gives it to him, but you can definitely see this person is at the very least complicit in what's going on with Desdemona, right? Because she could just say, "Hey, Othello, I stole that for him," right? And then the play is over, right? But she does not do that. Now, Desdemona and Othello. Oh wait, let me one more thing about. Well, actually, no. I'll come back to Emilia after. Let me just focus here. Okay, so Othello, in this scene, does confront Desdemona about this handkerchief. Right? He still isn't saying why he's so worried about it, but there's a speech here that sort of is important for understanding where Othello is at. Right? This is on page 123 and also on the top of page 125, Act 3, Scene 4, line 54. So he says, "That is a fault. That handkerchief did an Egyptian to my mother give. She was a charmer, and could almost read the thoughts of people. She told her, while she kept it, 'twould make her amiable, and subdue my father entirely to her love. But if she lost it, or made gift of it, my father's eye should hold her loathed, and his spirit should hunt after new fancies. She, dying, gave it me, and bid me what my fate would have me wive to give it her. I did so, and take heed on it, make it a darling like your precious eye. To lose it or give it way were such perdition as nothing else could match. So, Othello here is talking about how there is magic in the handkerchief, right? That this handkerchief is got some sort of magic spell cast inside of it in order to not make Desdemona fall in love with him, but in order to keep him from falling in love with someone else, right? So that's this magic of the handkerchief. Now, remember there was a big fuss about magic at the beginning of the play, right? About how, Othello used this handkerchief, or Othello used some sort of magic to get Desdemona to love him or anything like this, right? And Othello said, no, I didn't use magic. But now here he is talking about magic. So what's with this magic? So, we should understand the motivation here, right? It's not that Othello all of a sudden believes in magic, right? That's not the idea at all. He just wants to freak Desdemona out and get her to confess to cheating on him with Cassio, right? At this point, he is pretty much sure that Desdemona is cheating on him, and he just is looking for proof, right? So when he's saying these things to her, saying, oh, if you give it away or if you lose it, it's going to wreck the marriage and, I'm not going to love you anymore, right? That is him trying to freak Desdemona out and get her to confess and say, oh, I gave it to Cassio, right? It's important to note, at this point, Desdemona, or Othello, is completely convinced that Desdemona is cheating on him, right? He's just looking for proof, right? So he is freaking out, right? He is sort of interrogating her and, yelling at her, saying, is it lost? Is it gone? Speak. Is it out of the way? And Desdemona says, heaven bless us. Say you? It is lost, Luce, but what and if it were? How? I say it is not lost. Fetch it, let me see it, right? So he is furious, right? And again, he's sort of freaking out there, which is why, Desdemona is sort of getting a little defensive. But Desdemona here doesn't know what's going on, but Othello is sort of convinced of it, right? And it's important to recognize, again, the dramatic irony, because at the bottom of page 125, right, line 86, Act 3, Scene 4, Desdemona says, why so I can, sir, but I will not now. This is a trick to put me from my suit. Pray you, let Cassio be received again, right? So Desdemona has no idea of what Iago has been telling Othello, right? And so she is still in the mode where she's trying to help her friend get his job back, right? So she mentions Cassio at the absolute worst time, right? And, says, oh, you'll never meet a more sufficient man, right? But again, that's the worst possible time for her to do that. So the important thing here is that Desdemona still has no idea what's going on. From her perspective, Othello is just being weird. He's sort of going crazy here for no reason, right? Because she has no idea what Iago is doing, right? So she's still loyal to this guy and does whatever he says. And again, that's sort of an ideal wife for the time. Now, let's contrast that with Emilia here, right? So Othello storms off. He says, away, right? And Desdemona says, I never saw this before. Sure, there's some wonder in this handkerchief. I am most unhappy in the loss of it, right? And then Emilia, who will remember stole the handkerchief in the first place, turns to her, and this is on page 127, Act 3, Scene 4, line 103, right? She says, 'tis not a year or two shows us a man. They are all but stomachs, and we all but food. They eat us hungrily, and when they are full, they belch us. So, Emilia, first of all, let's point to the sort of hypocrisy of that statement, right? She's saying, oh, yeah, men are bad, all of that. But at the same time, she's caused the problem in the first place, right? You know, she knows where that handkerchief is right now. It's with Iago, but she's not telling her because she's loyal to Iago. So let's recognize that. But at the same time, this shows that Emilia is quite different from Desdemona, right? While Desdemona is loyal to Othello even when he's angry at her, even when he's doing bad stuff to her, um, she is 100% loyal. Emilia, on the other hand, has some critical things to say about men, right? She is not like Desdemona. She is not loyal to the death, right? The way Desdemona is, right? She is someone who understands that, you know, men, they eat us hungrily, as in they enjoy us while they can, and then they belch us, as in they just dump us, right? So she is a lot more critical of men than Desdemona ever is. Okay, so that brings us back to Act 4 here in the present day, where we see Othello and Iago are now in Cyprus again, right in the castle. And here is where Iago says that he is going to give Othello the proof um, that he's been looking for, right? Remember, Othello has been saying from the beginning, proof, 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 right? And Iago says here, what if I said, this is on page 137, Act 4, Scene 1, line 23, what if I said I had seen him do you wrong, or heard him say, right? So this is Iago, who's going to now give him the proof, right? So, it's important to once again see this kind of scene in action in order to fully understand it, right? Because the plan is essentially for Iago to talk to Cassio about this woman Bianca, right? But make Othello think he is talking about Desdemona, right? So let's take a look at that. That's on Act 4, Scene 1, line 92, right? So let's take a look here. So the idea is Othello will sit on the side, sort of in a little cupboard or off to the side where he can't be seen. When Shakespeare was doing this, he might have actually had Othello maybe even sit around the audience, right? Maybe at the front of the audience himself. I've certainly seen productions of Othello that have him do that. So Othello sits to the side, right? Right when Iago says, "Will you withdraw?" And then Iago tells us his plan in a quick soliloquy. Now will I question Cassio of Bianca, a housewife that by selling her desires buys herself bread and clothes. It is a creature that dotes on Cassio, as 'tis the strumpet's plagues to beguile many and be beguiled by one. He, when he hears of her, cannot refrain from the excess of laughter. Here he comes. So, uh, Bianca, let's talk about her real quick. Bianca Iago says that she is a huswife, right? Which is, you look in the glossary, means prostitute, right? And he specifically said, "'Tis the strumpet's plague to beguile many and be beguiled by one." In other words, she will trick many men and be tricked by one, right? Because she is a prostitute, right? Cassio himself says when they talk about her that he is her customer, right? When they discuss Bianca, Iago says, "She gives it out that you shall marry her. Do you intend it?" Cassio laughs, "Ha ha ha. Do you triumph, Roman? Do you triumph?" Right? So that's Othello there when he's talking is in the background. She's sort of hidden away, right? And Cassio says, "I marry her. What? A customer? Prithee, bear some charity to my wit. Do not think it so unwholesome. Ha ha ha. So Cassio is thinking that she is a prostitute as well, right? He calls her a customer. Now, the interesting thing, and this particularly goes out to those of you interested in writing about women's issues in this play, is that Bianca does not seem to think of herself that way, right? Iago says he's a prostitute. Cassio says he's her customer. But Bianca, when she comes in, right, she has that handkerchief that, by the way, remember the handkerchief? Emilia took it, gave it to Iago. Iago has now put it in Cassio's room where Bianca has found it. And Bianca says, right, this is on line 149, right, on page 145 of the PDF. What did you mean by that same handkerchief you gave me even now? I was a fine fool to take it, right? So, oh, wait, a little bit more actually. I must take the work out, a likely piece of work, that you should find it in your chamber and not know who left it there. This is some minx's token, and I must take out the work. There, give it your hobby horse. Wheresoever you had it, I'll take out no work on it. So, she is not happy that Cassio has this handkerchief that appears to have been given to him by another woman. So she is jealous of Cassio, right? So she doesn't like the idea of Cassio being with another woman. So if this were a prostitute, right, who is simply, making the money exchange, as Iago says, right, she'll sleep with him in exchange for money, right? If she were a prostitute, why would she be jealous? That's a business transaction, right? But Bianca clearly is not happy about him cheating on her, which means she does not think that she is a prostitute. She thinks she's his girlfriend, right? So that's Bianca's opinion of that. So to Cassio and Iago, they treat her as a prostitute, but for her, she thinks this is her boyfriend, right? So that is certainly something we can look at in terms of a woman here who's being exploited, right? Because what this tells us about Cassio is that he's playing with her emotions, manipulating her, pretending that he's interested in this woman when in reality he just thinks of her as just a prostitute, right? So that's the little scene that unfolds there, right? Bianca coming in, she has this handkerchief, right? And she is jealous because she thinks that Cassio's been sleeping around, right? When in reality it belongs to Desdemona. So this scene is important to just understand the way it looks to different people. To us, it looks like Cassio and Bianca are having a little fight and everything like that. But the whole thing is Othello's perspective, right? Because the way to understand this particular scene is when you look when Cassio first comes in, right, and you look at line 106, right? You have Cassio who's still worried about being fired, right? Iago says, "Ply Desdemona well, and you are sure on it," right? So Othello can hear that, and then he lowers his voice, right? So that Othello cannot hear this next part when it says speaking lower. And he says, "Now, if this suit lay in Bianca's power, how quickly should you speed?" Right? So there, what we see is that Iago here is making Othello think that all of these things that Cassio says about Bianca are actually about Desdemona. And so therefore, when Cassio is saying, oh, she's just a prostitute, right? And I'm a customer, right? All of that stuff, right? When he says, I marry her, what? A customer? All of that, right? Othello thinks everything he is saying is about Desdemona, and that Desdemona is therefore just one of the women that Cassio is sort of messing around with, right? And from his perspective, he's hearing that from the proverbial horse's mouth, right? So now we have Othello 100% convinced that Desdemona is being unfaithful to him. So, at this point, it might be useful to pause for a moment and consider the bigger issues here. So, I've mentioned this yesterday, and I'll mention it again. Imagine that we had a play where Desdemona is guilty of everything that Iago accuses of her of doing. What do you guys think the appropriate punishment would be for her, right, for this young lady? Um, what she has supposedly done is cheated on her husband with Cassio, right? Shortly after their honeymoon. So, if she had really done that, you could definitely say, okay, that's kind of a not good, right? No one wants to be married to someone who's gonna cheat, right? Certainly, no one wants to be married to someone who's gonna cheat within the first week of their marriage, right? That's kind of ridiculous, right? So you could think, well, what could be done to her as an appropriate punishment, right? If it had happened to you, what would you do, right? Would you, say, for instance, file for divorce? Would you, want to separate for a while? All of that kind of stuff, right? Because if she had done that, it would be, I think most people would agree, wrong. But Othello's answer to this question is very clear, right? Because his answer to that question is, well, I guess I have to murder my wife, right? She's cheated on me and everything like that. And so what must now happen is she must die, right? So um, he says very clearly on 189, hang her, right? I do but say what she is, so delicate her needle, an admirable musician. Oh, she will sing the savageness out of a bear, of so high and plenteous wit and invention. She's the worse for all this. Oh, a thousand times, and then of so gentle a condition. So he's furious, right? And he's saying, I will chop her into messes, right? Cuckold me, right? All of that stuff, right? So Desdemona is, he thinks he's guilty, and he decides, there it is, on line 206, get me some poison, Iago, this night. I'll not expostulate with her, lest her body and beauty unprovide my mind again. This night, Iago. And Iago says, do it not with poison, strangle her in her bed, even the bed she hath contaminated. Good, good, the justice of it pleases, very good. So they've decided, all right, Desdemona, time to die, right? We're gonna kill her for what she has done, or Othello rather decides that, right? That line, by the way, is on Act 4, Scene 1, line 211, right? And it's this sort of uh, question that brings us to our second of two reflections, right? Which we will be working on right now, right? So this is due on Friday, by the way. The assignment, as I said yesterday, is already posted, right? But it's due on Friday, right? But the question is, in Act 3 and Act 4, Othello is convinced by Iago that his wife Desdemona is cheating on him with his lieutenant Michael Cassio and decides that he is going to kill his wife as a consequence. Is Othello actually in love with Desdemona? Hint, consider the role of women in this society. So, this question is meant to sort of get you to think about, well, what gives this guy why does he have the right to kill her, right? Why is it that he thinks that he can just go ahead and do that. Now, today, or yesterday, I should say, in the seminar, people made some very good points about this, specifically about how Othello views Desdemona as essentially a piece of property, right, that he can dispose of as he pleases, right? So Othello, as a husband, views his wife in that way, right? So when his wife has essentially defied him and made him a cuckold and everything like that, right? He thinks he has the right to do that. So that brings us to the question of love. Can you call it love when Othello thinks he can treat her that way, right? Can you still say, yeah, he's in love with her when he's doing that sort of thing? So, in your answer, right, I want you to sort of consider some of those bigger things, right? So, don't think this is just a matter of, you go and you find one of the scenes where Othello says, at the beginning of Act 3, Scene 1, or was it Scene 3? Hang on, let me find it real fast. At the beginning of Act 3, Scene 3, right, he says to Desdemona that he loves the. Oh, wait, let me find it real fast. Yes, perdition catch my soul, but I do love thee, right? So don't think you can just take that and say, yeah, he loves her. Look, he said it right there, right? No, what I want you to do is to sort of dig a little deeper than that and think about, well, uh, he's gonna kill her, right? Because she's supposedly cheating on him, right? And even if you set the whole cheating part aside and you say, okay, let's assume she is cheating on him, does he got the right to do that, right? So this is what I want you to sort of consider, and your answer to this question, which is due tomorrow. So please, give that to me then. Now then, oh, I have another question. So at the same time, I was pleased, by the way, today to see in the seminar today that a lot of people seem to have finished the play, which is good, right? So please continue to submit your seminar questions to me, or not seminar, your essay questions to me, as we go along here, right? The sooner you get your essay done, right, the sooner you're finished this class, right? So if you get your essay done early, then great. It gives me more time to mark them, and you'll be finished the class, right? So submit your questions soon, right? And you don't want it to be, you know, Tuesday of next week, and you're just giving me a question, right? That'll mean you're in a little bit of trouble there. So make sure you submit your questions as soon as you can, so that I can take a look at them. So then, tomorrow we will be going up to Act 5, Scene 1, right? So we're getting to the end of this play. So you're going to read up until all these unrelated essays that they put in this thing. You're going to read, here it is, up until Act 5, Scene 1, right? So that's almost to the end, right? We're going to finish the play on Monday, right? But yes, up to page 185, there's a lot to talk about, particularly Emilia, who will be discussing a lot on Monday. I can tell you the main subject of the seminar on Monday is indeed going to be Emilia, and it's all because of what's going to be happening, particularly in Act 4, Scene 3 with her, but also in the ending, right? So for tomorrow, read up to page, what was it again? 185, the end of Act 5, Scene 1. And until then, I thank you all for listening. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you next time.